Two rallies, one in favor of an Islamic center near the World Trade Center site, the other one opposed.
We're just trying to praise our Lord, nothing more, nothing less.
This is their way of saying we have the power to be anywhere we want, even on the graveyard of America.
Police kept the two groups apart, and there were no reports of any physical clashes, but there were some loud confrontations.
I put it so close if you want to bring people together. Put it away from it so that there's no pictures to show that this mosque is right where our children died.
There's similar fights going on in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, in Tennessee, Wisconsin, California, where people are like, I don't want a mosque built next in my neighborhood. What's that about? It's not about Ground Zero. It's about something else.
The mosque project is being led by Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf and his wife, Daisy Khan. During a trip to the Middle East, he said the attention generated by the project is actually positive, and he hopes it will bring greater understanding. She appeared on ABC's Sunday Morning Show this week and expressed some openness to the suggestion by New York's governor that state land farther from Ground Zero be used for the center. However, she also said she'd have to meet with the center stakeholders first. Sunday's rally suggests the debate won't die anytime soon. Carlotta Bradley, The Associated Press.
There have been differences between America and Europe. No doubt there will be differences in the future. But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together. A change of leadership in Washington will not lift this burden. In this new century, Americans and Europeans alike will be required to do more, not less. Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice. It is the only way, the one way, to protect our common security and advance our common humanity. That is why the greatest danger of all is to allow new walls to divide us from one another. The walls between old allies on either side of the Atlantic cannot stand. The walls between the countries with the most and those with the least cannot stand. The walls between races and tribes, natives and immigrants, Christians and Muslims and Jews cannot stand. These now are the walls we must tear down. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though its waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with its swelling. There is a river whose stream shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her just at the break of dawn. The nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come behold the works of the Lord, who has made desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot in fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge.
Odd person and seriously overweight. So
okay. My question is, what did you do for the 10th anniversary of 9/11?
I was here. I slept in. I had taped the memorial service, though, from the night. I set my TiVo, and I got up and watched it, and parts of it, and I noticed that Paul Simon was supposed to sing Bridge Over Troubled Water. And it appeared at the last minute, when he went up to the microphone, that he changed his mind. And they still had the chyron underneath his name, that he was singing Bridge Over Troubled Water, but he wasn't singing it. He chose to sing Sounds of Silence. And he went from singing a very upbeat, optimistic song, Sail On, Silver Girl, and sang a very dark and sadly pessimistic song, And to the Neon God they prayed. 10,000 people, maybe more. It's a very powerful song, and I was really struck by what seems to be a snap decision at the last minute. And you know, that ceremony is so tightly choreographed. I don't know what kind of heads were spinning when he did that. I don't know if anybody's mentioned it since Sunday, but I was deeply moved by his version of that song, and you can see it online if you'd like to look at it. Later that night, when the crowds left and all the hoopla and the politicians and everybody had left the area around 11 o'clock or midnight that night, sometime late that night, I went down there on my own. And what I said and did was really just a private matter. I was deeply affected by that day, as everyone in this room was. One of the producers that worked with me was on the plane from Boston that went into the towers. And so that event, not only in and of itself, was so affecting and so tragic, it had multiple tragedies take place as a result of it, because those who died on that day, their names were used in vain to start not one war, but two wars, and ruin us and our reputation around the world.
Welcome to Capital Account. I'm Lauren Lister here in Washington, D.C. In New York. What am I talking about? These are your headlines for Friday, September 28th, 2012. So Bank of America announced today that it will pay $2.4 billion to settle a class action lawsuit with shareholders regarding the acquisition of Merrill Lynch during the financial crisis. Now, do you remember this deal? Looking back, this is what our guest today wrote about it. She wrote an article calling it The Deal from Hell. Heidi Moore reminds us of the legacy of the financial crisis still being worked through today at too big to fail banks like Bank of America, and what may be the deal from hell for shareholders, not to mention employees. Plus, trying to decipher the mysticism behind the markets, Wall Street traders might be looking to resources like this.
I wish I were big.
I want to be big may be the hope that Wall Street traders hope the markets will deliver in terms of their profits. We will hear about how Wall Street traders are looking to the mystics to get ahead, and also
happened.
Right, right. And just because we're talking about how the banking system has changed, profits falling, all of this, before we go, are traders, is the financial industry looking for ever more creative ways to get ahead? Because you wrote an interesting piece about astrology being used.
Yes.
Is that, you know, are these the measures that people need to resort to now to try to return to that era of profitability?
I will what's really funny about that story was so much fun to do, and talking to people who are financial astrologers or who use financial astrology, is it is not new. It has been around since the 40s and picked up a lot of popularity in the 60s and then obviously in the 70s with the whole sort of, you know, hippie era. But what was really interesting was after the crash of 1987, one of the astrologers told me that a whole bunch of hedge funds bought financial astrology software. Kind of on the down low, and they didn't talk about it. He doesn't know if they ever ended up using it, but you know people in finance, right? Mm-hmm. Anything that gives you an edge. It doesn't mean that they are going to be faithful to this one way of seeing things, that they are going to, you know, check the Fed's horoscope before making any of these decisions. But as somebody told me, you know, a 28-year veteran of Bear Stearns told me, if you're a trader and somebody tells you the market's going down in September, and it goes down in September, it doesn't matter who that person is. You're going to go back and ask, what's going to happen in November? Tell me what you see. Totally. You know, because you never really know. I mean, the market is almost in itself a mystic occurrence, a mystic phenomenon. And as you know, one of the first things that I found out when I was a financial reporter and I had just started, I would read the stock market stories and it would say the market is up today because, you know, oil and Afghanistan and Iraq, like all these really elaborate theories. And I was like, wow, these people must be really smart. They understand how these geopolitical things cause a change in the Dow. I don't know if I could ever wrap my mind around that. And then, of course, you become a financial reporter and you realize basically everyone's guessing.
Yeah,
you know? And it's not you as the reporter who's guessing, it's also the people in the market who's guessing, and everyone's taking the most plausible theory. So if you look at financial astrology through that lens, that, you know, it's just one more theory for them to go through, then, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they do have thousands of subscribers.
That's so interesting. It
so
makes
it was
sense.
fun.
Bring in the mystics.
Bring in the mystics. You know, are the professionals doing much better? Now everyone's going to be mad at me for saying that.
Oh, well, we'll cut that part out. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks so much, Heidi.
Thank you.
Let me be clear. As president, I believe that Muslims have the right to practice their religion as everyone else in this country. That includes the right to build a place of worship in a community center on private property in Lower Manhattan. This is America. This is America.
Salem, Massachusetts, tried to cast a victory spell on the team. They even had an inflatable Tom Brady watching over them. But in the end, only the Giants had the winning spirit, or spirits. And now for